Good day, everyone. Welcome back to the Doc of Detox show. Today's show is called What Are Circulating Tumor Cells? With my dear friend, Dr. Tony Jimenez. So let's just jump on in. And Dr. Tony, tell us, what are they and how are you?
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Wolfe. I'm doing excellent and just excited to bring this knowledge and information about what are circulating tumor cells because even published in 2013 in the Journal of Critical Review of Oncology, the title of that publication was On the Origin of Cancer Metastasis. So circulating tumor cells are the cells that lead to metastasis. And we know, Darrell, that no one dies from breast cancer, colon cancer, or prostate cancer. They die from the metastasis. And this is at the root of metastasis is circulating tumor cells. And, you know, if we look for over 50 years, metastasis has consistently been responsible for over 90% of all cancer deaths. So just think about that a moment. 90% of all cancer deaths are due to metastasis. And so stopping metastasis could save many lives, many cancer patients' lives when they're diagnosed with a primary tumor. So one of the challenges in medicine and research, Dr. Wolfe, is that 80% or so of the funds spent in cancer research is spent on studying the primary tumor, not the metastasis. And so that needs to be switched around because at the root of taking people's life is the metastasis. So this is where we talk about cancer circulating tumor cells being the cells that leave the breast. They leave the prostate, they leave the colon, and then go to the liver, to the lungs, to the brain, or to the bone. And ultimately, as we know, that's what's called metastasis.
Can I ask you a question then? Can I back up a little bit and ask you, so if you know this, do they know this? And if they know this, would they actually do this? Or will they just keep going on? And I'm not trying to put you in a corner, not trying to put them in a corner, but I'm just wondering, is this something that just a small sector of the cancer field has recognized, like yourself and a few others? Or is this something that is recognized by the whole cancer corporation and they just haven't moved on it?
So imagine that just one publication I mentioned was the Critical Review Oncology. This is a peer review oncology journal. So this information is out to the public. It's out to all the doctors involved in cancer. And one of the things we have to remember is that these circulating tumor cells or cancer stem cells are not killed or destroyed by radiation or chemotherapy. So could it be that they're not focusing on this area that's so important in the longevity and the livelihood of cancer patients because they don't have an answer with chemo and radiation? It is well documented in peer-reviewed literature that chemotherapy and radiation do not destroy circulating tumor cells or
Well,
cancer stem cells.
are these just so toxic, rogue cancer cells that radiation chemotherapy is like taking them out for a glass of wine? Is that what it is? Or what do you think the reason is that they're not affected by this?
Well, let me explain the process a little bit.
Okay.
So, yeah, we have a primary tumor. Pick an organ. Let's pick the breast because obviously it's the most common cancer known to man,
Yep.
and obviously woman. So we have the primary tumor that forms, and you have 99% of those cells are called non-cancer stem cells. Those cells can be killed by radiation and or chemo. But the 1% of these cells are called cancer stem cells. So now these cells are in that primary tumor, that mass or that lymph node. For them to leave for the cancer stem cells, the minority population, to leave the primary tumor, and they are in what's called, Dr. Wolfe, the epithelial variant. This is in that tissue, the epithelial cancer stem cells. For them to leave and go into the blood flow, the circulation, they have to transition to something called mesenchymal cancer stem cell. So that happens. And chemo and radiation cannot stop that process. Once these mesenchymal cancer cells invade the blood vascular wall, the blood vessel wall, now they're circulating in blood. And now they're called circulating tumor cells. And those are the cells that travel through the bloodstream and then find a location where they form like a blood clot. It's called an embolus. And then they leave that vascular wall, the blood vessel, and then now they lead to micrometastasis to the bone, to the lung, brain, liver. And so this process that I just described is called the process of metastasis. It's invasion and escape of these cells, these rogue cells, as you mentioned. And one thing that we need to remember, because we all hear circulating tumor cells, CTCs, they're called CTCs when they are in the blood vessel. And once they leave the blood vessel, now they're called cancer stem cells.
Okay, so can I ask you a question? And you know what? It's not my go-to, but could trauma or continued trauma and drama create the break-off of these stem cells? Or what do you think? Or no?
It can. It can. It could be emotional, psychological, trauma, conflict. It could be toxins, heavy metals. It could be lack of oxygen. So these are foundational causes for these cancer stem cells to be different than the non-cancer stem cells. And the problem is that conventional medicine doesn't have a way to find these circulating tumor cells, and much less to destroy them. But for sure, we believe from clinical experience that emotional trauma can indeed play a big role in the differentiation of these cells to more aggressive and more resistant circulating tumor cells. Because what is it, Dr. Wolfe? You teach us all the time. It's about information and the transfer of energy and the transfer of information. So these cells are getting these negative emotional frequencies, and that is making them more resistant and aggressive. Of course, hard to prove in a lab, hard to prove in an animal or human study, but we see it every day. We see patients that have unresolved traumas and conflicts where the disease progresses more, it metastasizes easier.
Okay, so I think that that's wonderful that you can track these things, but the bottom line here is that if we can get people to embrace their value more, then we aren't going to see people waiting until we see the metastasize of the tumor and that it does spread. But so the reality is if we can get people to believe that they deserve to be healed right away until they become a 911 emergency, that would be the education that we want to do here, because once you've taken it up to that new level, then we're talking about really rolling the dice, aren't we?
We are. And if there's someone in the audience watching this who have had chemo and radiation and there are in so-called remission, this education that we're providing today is alerting them that there's more that needs to be examined. There's more data points that we need to look at, because these so-called remissions are not taking into account that these circulating tumor cells or cancer stem cells are not detectable by a PET scan, MRI, CAT scan, bone scan, or any of those, diagnostic tools. So it gives the patient a false sense of security that they are in remission. So
Well, there.
why is it, right, Dr. Wolfe, that the doctor says, hey, come back in 6 months for another scan, another scan? So what they're waiting for is for something to show up. And indeed, it's these cancer stem cells that will show their face again at some point.
Well, there's the 2.21 or 2.23 survival rate after 5 years that we're talking about. And that's why you're always going to check up. And don't get me wrong, but the thing is that they can't tell with the equipment they have. So it doesn't really matter. You're always living under an umbrella of terror, even if it's in your subconscious. You're never totally free from this cancer contamination. So even if a person went and did the chemo radiation route, they should basically come and get tested by you because you have the only equipment that can properly do it. And there would be a bigger breath or a sigh of relief. But then if I just had chemo and I had radiation, when would I come and how would I know? Should I wait 6 months to come see you? Should I, because you know that the majority of the population is going to go and get chemo and radiation, even if they know it's not successful, because we understand that the mind controls the body, controls your life, and all we got to do is program any program into somebody, even if it's going to kill them, and they're going to accept it if we do it enough. So most people, even watching this show, are still going to go get the chemo and radiation because where your value is in your life, that's how much money you're going to spend. So they're not going to come to you, Dr. Jimenez, first. We already know that until they get really bam. And then when they become the 911. So let's say if somebody goes and gets chemo and radiation, and if I heard about you and I wanted to know if there was these rogue cells on the run, even though they say I'm in remission, when would I come? And could you explain that to me? What would I do?
Well, the first thing is that, you have to understand that when they come to you for what you do, Dr. Wolfe, when they come to us for what we do, is when emotionally, psychologically, you're there. There's patients that come to us and they're still living to die and not living to live. So that's the first thing. Secondly, from a medical perspective, I want them to come at most 2-3 months after the last chemotherapy and or radiation, specifically with radiation, because radiation continues to have an effect up to 4 weeks after the last session of radiation. So, start changing your nutrition right away, get proper sleep, all the lifestyle changes, and then come to us as soon as you can after that 4 weeks if you've had radiation. Also chemo, why not? And then we could look at these circulating tumor cells because a primary tumor releases about 1 million cancer cells a day into the circulation. Fortunately, most of these cells are killed by our immune system. But what happens, as we all know, with chemo and radiation, it suppresses the immune system. So these cells that the primary tumor are releasing into the bloodstream, called circulating tumor cells, they have a greater chance to develop into metastatic disease in a distant organ from the primary tumor because of the chemo and radiation, also the suppression of the immune system. So even with an optimal immune system, about 0.01% of all these cells survive. That's about 100 cells per day survive from the primary tumor into the bloodstream that the immune system didn't kill. And this is the risk of patients developing metastasis. Obviously, some of these cells can be in the dormant phase, and they could be dormant for months, years. And that's why maybe we all have heard of patients that have had chemo radiation and they were in so-called remission a year, 2 years, 3 years, and then 4 years later, you have a recurrence. the cancer came back. Or now the cancer is in the liver or the lung or somewhere where it wasn't before. That's because these dormant circulating tumor cells became active. And this is well established in the literature and also in clinical experience. So, in summary, to answer your question, they should come at least a month after the chemo and radiation, get a full screening with a technology, as you said, Dr. Wolfe, that is unique in the world called photodynamic infrared spectroscopy. And we're able to detect even one single circulating tumor cell. And in addition, besides screening, we could treat, we could destroy these circulating tumor cells using non-toxic therapies in the sense of lasers and LEDs. So we're using light, powerful lasers that are non-toxic. They're not cutting lasers or therapeutic lasers. Low-level laser therapy. Intravenously, we could put it into the tumor, or we could do it topically from the external, from outside the body. So this is very important to know. The other thing, Dr. Wolfe, is that many patients come to us or have heard that you could take your blood and send samples of this to Europe or other places and get tested for circulating tumor cells in a blood sample. And this blood sample is about 20 to 30 milliliters. The problem here is that the laboratory can only detect a very small percentage of the circulating tumor cells, as I mentioned earlier, called the epithelial circulating tumor cell. And so we need to have technology like the photodynamic infrared spectroscopy that can detect epithelial and mesenchymal circulating tumor cells. So this is the best of the best that exists right now in the world for detecting and treating these circulating tumor cells.
So would you I guess your protocols would be different depending on what a person's age or how aggressive the circulating cells are and how long a person would maybe stay down there, or do you have anything that you can tell us about that?
Yeah, of course. Interestingly, it's not known very well, not even among patients, but the younger someone is with cancer, the more aggressive it tends to be. So a breast cancer in a 25-year-old female is not the same in aggressiveness and potential metastatic activity as a 60-year-old female with breast cancer. So one very well-known fact in oncology is that the younger someone is with prostate cancer, breast cancer, lung cancer, the more aggressive it tends to be. And this is because their cell turnover is faster. Their metabolism is faster. They're still producing more hormones. So for sure, if someone is of lesser age, younger age, more the reason that they need to be proactive and seek hope for cancer and us to do these really detailed evaluation of what is the status, because we for sure know that chemotherapy and radiation do not kill all the tumors, all the cancer cells. So the younger someone is, Dr. Wolfe, more aggressive it tends to be. And as opposed to when I started working in oncology in 1988, over 30 years ago, we're seeing younger patients with breast cancer, younger patients with colon cancer, younger patients with prostate cancer, and the list just goes on and on. And of course, this is a tribute to many, many things, including electromagnetic field radiation, environmental toxicity, GMO, and the list goes on and on.
Oh boy. Just listening to this and just, I don't know, but have you noticed just in the last 2 years, the rise in cancer has become like, it's like I can't have a conversation on the phone anymore with anyone, you know? Everybody's got somebody in a family right now dealing with cancer. Think about that. Pretty well everybody has somebody dealing with cancer in a family. I mean, this whole thing is exploding. This is why this show is so valuable, and this is why having you on this show is so valuable, because a lot of people don't understand the alternative, and a lot of people really have a misconception about going to Mexico as well. And you know what? I think that people are going to go to Mexico for a long time because they're not going to be offered the care, the beautiful natural care, and the scientific care. I mean, you have such a great balance down there. You've harnessed nature and you've harnessed science, so everybody is getting the best optimal chance of bringing, not just turning the illness around, but being able to have a vital and healthy life again. And you know what the biggest part of this is that let's not get just rid of the disease, but let's put them at ease that they can think about living, like you say, and not be thinking about dying while they're living, because we just getting rid of the terror and creating a strategy for these patients that you do, and creating that natural environment for them so that they can learn how to live with themselves on an emotional, nutritional, and physical and a detox level. Why don't you talk about, if you don't mind, why don't you talk about your book? Do you have your book handy?
I do. And before that, Dr. Wolfe, you touched on many important points, but I want to highlight one is harnessing science. You called it that. You said harnessing science. And that's one thing I want the audience to understand, because integrative complementary medicine, alternative medicine is rich and packed in science. What we do is not quackery, as we're accused to oftentimes. This is real science. There's publications, there's clinical experience, and ultimately, there's patient outcomes. 92% of our patients are in stage 4, and how can a great majority of these patients be well, live healthy, and live a long life? How can they? When they were told that was it, there's nothing more to do, go to hospice. Is this not science? So in my book that will be out in May of 2019, Hope for Cancer, 7 Principles to Remove Fear and Empower Your Healing Journey. And you mentioned fear before. It's so powerful in that, we need to remove fear. You cannot heal in fear. Give us your little talk about fear and healing, Dr. Wolfe.
Well, the reality is here is that we are emotional beings. I'm going to give you just a little one, and you should never do that though, Tony, because I'll just steal the whole show. No, I'm kidding. But thank you, Dr. Jimenez. But here's the thing: we are emotional beings. That's what we are. We came down here to discover all the emotions from A to Z. But the problem is we got our wheel caught in fear. And there's a lot of different sub-emotions that are under fear. But the thing is that false evidence appearing real, which everybody says that's what it stands for, which it does. And understand that all emotions have frequency. And depending on the emotion that you repeat the most, you'll create a master frequency. And as Einstein stated, E equals MC squared. So energy turns into mass. So either, you can get a couple coming together out of love and creating a baby. That's pretty amazing, isn't it? That's like mind-blowing, okay? Or you can get a person that lives in fear, or a whole family that lives in fear, and somebody's going to grow a tumor. Somebody's going to have these circulating tumor cells, because guess what? Remember something, everything is frequency. We can turn on cancer with a frequency and turn it off like Dr. Jimenez does with his laser therapy, with his light therapy. So everything is frequency.
Everything is frequency at all levels, and this is where the holistic approach is so valuable, because we are treating the spirit, the mind, and the body in that order, because disease starts at an energetic level, frequency, vibration, resonance. And so one of the downfalls in orthodox medicine is that it's just treating the end organ, the tumor. You're treating the tumor in the patient. You're not treating the patient with the tumor. And this is very important because for fear, imagine someone that just had chemo. They're bald, they lost their hair, they're vomiting, they're sick in bed, weak. How could they not be in fear? And then before that, the doctor told them that, you know, this is your prognosis. Patients in your situation have, 6 to 12 months life expectancy. And so fear starts from the beginning. And so it is our obligation and that of those of you listeners to foremost work on that emotional aspect, work on good energy, good information, eating healthy, making healthy choices, going into nature, and removing that fear and empowering your healing journey, because your body can heal. You don't have to fear cancer. And as a patient of mine said, cancer is not the enemy. Fear is the enemy. And so with the tools that we have at Hope for Cancer, that fear is lifted. You feel empowered, and you know deep in your spirit and heart that you can heal, that you will heal, and that your body has that potential. We have an internal pharmacy. I was talking today to a colleague of mine that I hadn't seen for 10 years, and we were specifically talking about that. You know, things like energy medicine, acupuncture. This is doing great things because it's releasing specific substances or internal pharmacy that starts that healing process. So much we could do with energy medicine, infrared light, different sound therapies, music therapies, love, gratitude, generosity. And then you could take, the supplements and all these other things. But we need to be very clear where the foundation of health and healing is.
Absolutely. And it's the craziest thing, but everybody knows that cancer is its main meal is fear. Everybody knows that. And you know what? And now corporations are feeding us that. The media is feeding us that. So understand, everyone, that, once you understand the laws of nature, okay, and then you also understand the law of God, which is total love, totally loving yourself, honoring yourself, respecting yourself, forgiving others, getting yourself out of judgment jail, and then embracing nature again. And everything you do, it has to come straight from nature, and that mankind is not kind. Okay, but I will tell you that Dr. Tony Amanis is a very kind man, and I will tell you that I work with cancer patients, but I don't do what he does. I don't have the equipment that he does. I work on a different level than he does. And understand something. Keep your eyes open and keep your eyes on the prize, and understand this. Don't tell me you don't have enough time, and don't tell me you don't have enough money, because that's just limiting beliefs again, okay? Because you are worth everything. I had a patient actually, and they were talking to me just last week. They were talking about going down for Hope for Cancer, and they were saying to me, well, we really don't have a lot of money. And I said, look, you can either become vitally well and healthy and have debt, okay, or you can be dead and have no debt. I think that's what you need to think about. I also told her too, I said, if one of your children, okay, a doctor said to you that one of your children, and this is not a sales pitch, everyone, so please don't even go down that road. It's just something I feel I need to say. I said to her, if one of your children were sick right now, okay, and they had to go and be in a hospital in Mexico for the next, let's say 8 months, and you couldn't work, but the doctor said that if you could be there 8 hours a day, every day for 8 months, he can guarantee that that child would live. Would you go? You know what she said to me? Absolutely. And I said, well, guess what? That child is you, and you don't have to go for 8 months.
Amen.
Okay.
Amen.
So understand something. Value. What is your value? I know my value is beyond limit. Okay. And I will do anything for Darrell because I love Darrell. Do you love you? That's the reality here today. Do you love you? Do you deserve to heal? So I know I got off on a little bit of tangent, but sometimes I think we need to.
We need to, and we need to know that we can stop cancer from progressing. We can get to these circulating tumor cells that are the ones that lead to metastasis. And the answers, a lot of the answers are found in nature. And now we're able at Hope for Cancer to provide some of these natural God given herbs like green tea extract, like St. John's wort, even things like frankincense essential oil. We're able to give these intravenously. And so imagine we're getting these natural, powerful substances from nature that only affect cancer cells, only affect these circulating tumor cells. And you combine that with love, you combine that with optimism, gratitude, and so many stories, Dr. Wolfe, of patients, how they were able to get to Hope for Cancer. One that comes to mind when you were mentioning about your patient, it's a fellow from Africa. I think the country was Botswana. And it took him literally 4 days to get to our center. And it wasn't only, this is after he had the money or found the money. And then 4 days because he was from a remote town. Thank goodness for internet and Google and all that. He had access to the information from watching the Truth About Cancer docuseries. He knew about us. So he came, but then there was a flood and he had to take a canoe. And then, the small airport was closed, and it took him 4 days of constant travel. He only slept a few hours those 4 days to get to us. So really, as you say, if you love yourself, there really is no excuse. Where there's a will, there's a way. And I'm not just saying that, just to say it, because I see it all the time. And those are the patients that do well, because they're there for a reason. They have the passion. They have the commitment, they have the dedication. They're not the ones that, come to the clinic, have money, and then go back home and go back to their lifestyle. So, start eating in McDonald's again, go into toxic relationships. And then they say, oh, the treatments didn't work. Well, of course, if you're going back to the situation that triggered this cancer process, for sure, you need a lot of work to change those lifestyle areas in your life so that you can heal. But all of you can heal. Answer comes from nature. You should not fear cancer. And there are solutions, regardless if you're on stage 1, 2, 3, or 4, if the doctor told you you're terminal, because we are all terminal. So if a doctor tells you that, you say, well, you're terminal too, doctor. And I know that I can heal. So believe that, and it starts with that one single thought, loving yourself and believing that you can heal.
You're right. And everybody needs to get this, that, you got to remove guilt and really take a look at, just take a look at the day when you get up in the morning and how you talk to yourself, how you treat yourself. And I tell everyone, the reason why there's so many therapies out there that exist that don't work is because the majority of the population opts to go and do them. We know they don't work, but you got to ask yourself why someone will go under the knife or go get chemo or radiation or do something and make themselves into a 911 emergency before there truly is an emergency, and then do things that are life-threatening. And you just have to ask yourself, well, I'll tell everybody out there how I feel. It's because you don't love yourself. You're running a hate program on a subconscious, unconscious level, and you don't know it, but it's still going to hurt just as much. Like I tell people, it doesn't matter. I mean, if everybody, if the majority was like me, the hospitals would have to close and then have to reopen, and they'd have to end up like a hospital like Hope for Cancer. Let's not throw out all these medical breakthroughs. Oh, no. And I understand that the medical system is the system that helps with emergency care. They saved my daughter's life, and they've saved many other people's lives. So understand that. We're not throwing that out. But for God's sakes, let's return to that which created us and embrace nature, and then take this science and harness it and get rid of all these greedy people that do not care for you at all. They have no, understand, corporations have no blood, no heart, no feeling. And I'm going to tell you something. People will end up, why do people go to these places? Well, because you're going to pick the therapy that vibrates at the level of the frequency that you care about yourself. And so I want people to just really think about this and understand something. You know what? When you get a doctor that's always putting you into fear and making you make these quick, fast decisions, you know what? He doesn't know you. And the game will change when you change the game.
Mm-hmm. And you know, it's being proactive, being empowered, taking things into your own hands. And what Dr. Wolfe and I are doing with all these shows, and I hope you can go back and look at the archives of not only myself, but other shows that Dr. Wolfe does, other shows that you can see, and educational films from Hope for Cancer. It's about knowing that you can heal, and we're providing you this knowledge. Share it with your family, with your church, with your community. And now, at least if you decide to go to chemo and radiation, God bless you. That's your choice. We respect that. But remember, even if that is your choice, do an integrative therapy. Work on your nutrition. Work on the detoxification. And these 7 key principles that I mentioned very eloquently in this book took me a long time, many years of work and research to put this together. So the 7 key principles to remove fear and empower your healing journey. And only with these 7 key principles can you really have a healthy and long life if you were diagnosed with cancer, even if you decided to do chemo and radiation or other toxic immunotherapies.
And so, on a lighter note, where can people get your book, and when is the release date again?
I'm sorry, say that again, Dr. Wolfe?
When is the release date for your book?
Yeah, the release date is May 1st, 2019, and they could go to Hope for Cancer, the number 4, hopeforcancer.com, and pre-order it now there immediately, or just wait for the release date. But we are taking pre-orders, and it'll be ready to go May 1st.
All right. And the show was about circulating cancer cells. So if I came down there, are you taking my blood? Is that what you're doing? And testing me?
Yeah, if you come down here, what we're doing is that we're putting a little catheter on your arm, just like when you get any IVs.
Right.
We're giving you a substance called ICG, indocyanine green, which is non-toxic. And that's what's going to bind itself to any circulating tumor cells. And so then we use a photodynamic infrared spectroscopy as a device that has a probe that then we put on the arm above where the catheter is. And then we run the screening test, which takes 17 minutes. So in 17 minutes, your total blood volume goes to this one point, and then we're able to detect any circulating tumor cell. Once detected, then we could zap them or destroy them with infrared laser lights, which is non-toxic. And so the whole procedure takes about an hour and a half. And we have doctors that are specialized in performing the PDIS, the spectroscopy test, to detect the circulating tumor cells in our both clinics in Cancun and in Tijuana, Mexico. So it's a minimally invasive procedure because we have to place a little catheter in the arm. It takes about an hour and a half. There's no side effects, really nothing to be concerned about. And the accuracy, efficacy, and imagine if doing this test shows that you have no circulating tumor cell, that gives you a real, fundamentally science-based, definitive idea of circulating tumor cells in blood, and your prognosis increases tremendously from a medical perspective because now your risk of getting metastasis is low to none.
Yeah, well, anything that you can do to help to take off the load, to allow the immune system to regain its strength. It's like, give me a break. So are you trying to tell me that it's an hour and a half to let me know if I have these, or an hour and a half, you've already checked it and you've already treated me?
It's an hour and a half to screen
Okay.
and to treat. So in an
Wow.
hour and a half, we could screen and treat.
Wow. And then down to the beach, right?
Down to the beach.
Down to the beach. So
Yeah, get some more sun and more energy. And depending on your clinical status, we do recommend maybe repeating the test in 6 months or a year,
right.
depending on your situation.
So, I think it's really important that everybody thinks about this, right? So think about, if you're going to go on a holiday, you might just want to take one in that direction. If it's something that's on the back of your mind, or back of the burner, even if you have the pot on the burner and it's on simmer, you know what? The pot's going to burn eventually. So the reality is that you might as well go on a holiday and then give your immune system a holiday, because you'd be surprised on, if you're constantly worried about something like this, you are trickling that adrenaline and that cortisol, and it's just like drip, 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 drip. And you'd be surprised how many drips can come out of a tap. And you could be surprised in how acidic that makes you, how stressed that makes you. And anyways, it almost sounds like I'm doing a pitch for Dr. Jimenez, but I am doing a pitch for you, because you need to pitch yourself into the right direction and really love yourself enough to let yourself off the hook.
Yeah. We've had that happen many times, Dr. Wolfe, where patients are in Cancun on vacation. Obviously, they call us beforehand and they come to the clinic, scheduled, we run the PDIS, we treat them, and wow, they fully enjoy the rest of the vacation. They have information that they couldn't have anywhere else, actually, with a few exceptions in Germany, where they have this technology as well. But in this part of the world, it doesn't exist beyond Hope for Cancer. So it's a blessing that working with the developers in Europe, in Germany particularly, that we have this technology now available for you. And if you're in Cancun, if you're going to Cancun, even if you haven't thought about taking a vacation, love yourself, get that fear out, know what your risk is of developing a recurrence or a relapse, as it's called in medicine, and decrease your risk of metastasis, and you'll live far longer, and potentially you'll be in a permanent state of remission, not a uncertain remission, because as I said earlier, scans cannot detect these circulating tumor cells.
So if I wanted more information, where do I call, or where do I email, or what is the way that I would get in touch?
Yeah, the best way is just to go to our website, Hope, H-O-P-E, the number 4, cancer, hope4cancer.com. And our patient coordinators will be happy to talk to you. Our doctors will review your medical records, will tell you when is the best time to do the PDIS screening, and they will coordinate everything, work on the logistics, make it really easy for you. And really, they take care of you beyond what any conventional medical center does anyway. So hope4cancer.com.
Thank you, Dr. Jimenez. Is there anything you would like to say to everybody before we let them go? And just know we'll be back in 4 weeks for another show. But so make sure that you let your friends know about this show. Let them know. I don't know of another show like this. So let them know about this show, and let them know that there's hope, okay, for cancer. All right. Dr. Jimenez?
Well, the reason that we chose this topic to have one show in itself is because of the importance of circulating tumor cells. Please spread this information. Let your friends know. Who is this test for? Those patients that are in so-called remission, those people that have a high incidence of cancer in their family, so they want to get screened before that tumor forms. So many people that are walking around now in apparent good health may have circulating tumor cells, CTCs, that haven't lodged themselves yet in the breast, the prostate, the colon, the lung. So what better test to do to prevent a cancer to form that might be brewing than a photodynamic infrared spectroscopy? And then if you had this high incidence of cancer in your family, please get screening. Also, if you just know that your neighbor or someone on TV, your friend, was diagnosed with cancer, now you're in that fear mode, get screened. Get screened now, because if you keep on that unloving, fearful nature, something is going to happen. And I'm not wishing this on anyone, but I see it all the time. Interestingly, also, Dr. Wolfe, many patients that come to us, they said, I've never been sick a day of my life. I haven't gone to the doctor in years, till the pain started, till they felt the lump, and things just snowball from there. So this is an accurate, sensitive, ideal test to decrease that fear, and also to know if what your risk is in developing cancer in the future, and importantly, destroying those circulating tumor cells. So please share that information. Order the book, Hope for Cancer, and we'll look forward to seeing you in the next show in 4 weeks.
Thank you, Dr. Jimenez. So remember something, everybody, and this is a fact, okay? You're either spreading hope or you're spreading fear. Think about it. Watch how people talk. Watch how you talk. And then you'll see that everything is a frequency. Are you creating hope for yourself and others? Or are you unintentionally, unconsciously spreading fear? Okay? I want to thank everybody for joining us today. And just know that we'll keep on bringing you the shows. We're going to be doing the science of ionic calcium on April the 17th with Jay Lee. And he's going to be going through a whole scientific slideshow to show that this is one of the biggest breakthroughs in nutritional science. The next thing is we'll be doing a Q&A, okay, on the 21st, which would be actually the Tuesday, okay? April the 21st, Tuesday. So if you'd like to join us for that, and you'll have questions. And the next thing is I will be doing my blue light 5G toxicity series, and that will be starting on May the 15th. So if you want to know a real demon, you're going to find out what that is. It's blue light and 5G. And actually, corporations are calling this the harvest, because they're going to harvest your money and they're going to harvest your health unless you learn how to protect your family, protect your home, and protect yourself, okay? So I want to thank everybody for coming. Just know that we are having a certification trio course in Kelowna if anybody would like to join us in Whole Life Coach certification, Wolfe Deep Tissue and Non-Surgical on May the 4th. And then we'll be in St. Petersburg, Florida again this year on June 9th. And we'll be there for 5 weeks training. All right. And then we're going to end up actually going to be in Australia in December and Mexico in February. And God bless. Have a beautiful day. And like I said, we'll see you at the next show. And again, I want to thank from the bottom of my heart Dr. Tony Jimenez for coming on and bringing these life-saving technologies and therapies to everybody. God bless. If you're looking for life-saving and life-changing information, well, you've come to the right place. Don't forget to click and subscribe. Stay connected.